This is the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sikkim Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Brooke Bednarz and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. We're glad you're with us again this week. John Morris alongside Brooke Bednarz. And Brooke, we're in the month of February. And February, most of our listeners will know, is Black History Month. And wow, do we have a special guest for our podcast this week that really speaks to the history of Baylor Athletics and as it ties in with Black History Month.
Absolutely, John. Whether he wants to admit it or not, Tommy Bowman plays a huge role in the history of Baylor athletics. He's the first recruited and scholarship black athlete for Baylor University, going back to 1966 when he started playing for the Baylor men's basketball program.
So, Tommy, we appreciate you being with us. Let's start back at the beginning, growing up in Athens, Texas. We want to hear from you what it was like growing up there and when you first started playing basketball. Tell us about that.
Well, growing up in Athens was like most small East Texas towns in the 60s. Very segregated, for one thing. And I started playing basketball during my sixth grade. There was a elementary school that was a couple of years old, and I was in the sixth grade. And I can't recall the principal's name now, but he got a basketball team going. And I remember him teaching me how to shoot layups properly. Mr. Glaspie was his name. And that's where I first started playing organized basketball. Now, I didn't have a goal in my backyard, but my next-door neighbor did. So I played quite often on their goal. And as I recall, one of the things I always did when I was playing on their goal, I had to make sure that I hit a layup, I hit a jump shot, and I hit a free throw. I had to do all of those consecutively before I quit going in the house that day. But that was the beginning of my basketball playing days.
So you started playing basketball in sixth grade. That was at a segregated school. At what point did the schools become integrated?
Desegregated my senior year of high school. As a matter of fact, I played at Fisher High School. That was a predominantly black high school. And then my senior year, we integrated and I went to Athens High School. And I guess in retrospect, that was a blessing because had I not gone to Athens High School, stayed over at Fish High School, I'd probably still be in Athens working at the brickyard.
Why do you say that?
Well, because nobody ever noticed you at the black school unless it was a coach going to Prairie View A&M, Texas Southern, somewhere like that. And I'm not belittling those educational places because they were terrific. But I just don't think I would have gotten the exposure at Fisher High School that I received at Athens High School.
So how'd that senior season go? They had to be different, being integrated and everything was going on outside of school, off the basketball court. Now you're all coming together. Tell us, what was that like?
As far as the athletic part of it, it worked out pretty good because I played football and I also played basketball. And my senior year at Athens High School was really, really, really a blessing because when I was playing basketball, the basketball hoop got really big. So I was able to, score quite a few points. And I was not one of those kind of guys that was highly recruited. As a matter of fact, Coach Dawson, who recruited me to Baylor University, he tells me that he was coming through Athens on his way home, and he stopped at a Texaco service station there in Athens. And working at that service station was a man named Granville Creighton, which was a black man. And he happened to see a bumper sticker on Dawson's vehicle, and I think it said Baylor basketball or something. So he asked Coach Dawson, says, are you a basketball coach? Coach Dawson said, yes, I am. Said, I coach at Baylor University. And Mr. Graham said, well, we got the best basketball player in the state of Texas right here in Athens, referring to me. And as Coach Dawson tells the story, he said he started looking through all of his papers, because he was recruited for Baylor, so he thought he knew about all the basketball players. Had nothing on Tommy Bowman, because nobody knew anything about Tommy Bowman. Anyway, Coach Dawson said, long story short, he decided to come over and watch me play. And the rest is history.
I heard he recruited your mama.
He sold my mama. When I say he sold, I mean lock, stock, and barrel. He sold my mama because Dawson, I don't know if you know Dawson or not, but he's a tall, handsome, good-looking young man. And my mama she would shell peas and cook a lot. Dawson would come by the house and sit on the porch and shell peas with my mama. Can you believe that? Anyway, he sold her. And if I had not come to Baylor, I think she probably would have kicked me out of the house.
Baylor or nothing. So before we dive into your time at Baylor, I want to hear what your original aspirations were. You mentioned it to us a little bit before, but you had your eyes set on Henderson County Junior College. Why were your eyes set there? Why is that somewhere you felt like you wanted to go? And tell us about being the first in your family to go to college.
My sister, I've got an older sister, 4 years older than me. Now, when she graduated high school, she graduated from Fisher High School. She went to cosmetology school to be a hairdresser. And I might add, she's never, ever done that, but she went and got training to do that. So I was hoping that I'd be able to go to Henderson County Junior College, and at the time it was known as Hickjick. I think it's Trinity Valley now. And that was my aspiration. And I went out there quite often to watch them play basketball, and I even knew some of the basketball players. But I was just hoping I'd be able to continue my education at Henderson County Junior College, because nobody in my family had gone to college prior to that except my sister, and I didn't think I wanted to be a beautician.
So when Coach Dawson comes, does he come up to your house? Does he just show up at your house? Did he reach out first? How did you first meet him?
I don't recall. I really don't. I don't recall the first meeting with Carol Dawson, so a long time ago.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, and Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Your friend in the car business.
Whether on the field or cheering from home, Du Bois Furniture is proud to support the Baylor Bears. If your bear cave needs updating, Du Bois Furniture is here to help. With over 59 years of our family serving yours, let our experienced sales team help you find exactly what you want. We specialize in custom upholstery, stunning dining rooms, elegant bedrooms, gorgeous leather, and top quality mattresses. Come see us in Waco and Temple or visit us online at DuBoisFurniture.com. Du Bois Furniture, where beautiful homes happen.
Now, back to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
We're visiting with Tommy Bowman as you listen to the Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Tommy was the first recruited and scholarship black athlete for Baylor University. Tommy, we're talking with you about the first time you met Coach Dawson, and while you don't necessarily remember that first meeting, he was recruiting your mom very heavily. We joked about that, and your mom really wanted you to go to Baylor. But in your mind, you had thoughts of Henderson County Junior College. That's kind of where your goal was. It was close to home. And then you had this big school, Baylor University, a coach sitting on your front porch, shelling peas with your mom. I want to know what was going on in your head when all of that was taking place.
I'm not sure what it was at that time, Brooke, but in retrospect, as I look back on it, I can see the hand of God on this thing. And I feel like I was preordained to be at Baylor University. Coach Dawson recruited me. And when I came to Baylor, everything just worked out. And not because I was so smart. I say everything worked out. There was one embarrassing situation that initially didn't work out. When I say we, my family and I came up to Baylor a week ahead of time. And I don't know how that happened, but somehow we miscommunicated with somebody, misread the letters that we received, and we came a week ahead of time. So here I am. I leave Athens, and I'm kind of a celebrity there. I'm a scholarship athlete to Baylor University, first black scholarship athlete. So everybody in Athens kind of knew about it because Athens was a town of less than 10,000 people at the time. So we leave town on Sunday to come to Baylor University. I pack up, everybody tells me goodbye and wishes me well. And so we come to Baylor. Get up here, the dorms are shut down. I think Mac Mullen, which was the dorm director, he was there, and he said, well, we're not receiving any students until next Sunday. So then all we could do was go back to Athens. And now everybody's already said goodbye and wished me well, and so we got to go back. And it wasn't like I could hide for a week there in Athens. So we go back to Athens. And everybody wants to know, what's the deal, Tommy? You're supposed to be at Baylor University. But other than that, everything else went well, Brooke.
So we've talked about Coach Dawson, but Bill Menifee was the head coach at Baylor at that time. What was that like? I understand Coach Menifee sort of gave CD full reign in recruiting. That was his thing. For you to have been recruited by him solely, because I don't think you even met Coach Menifee until you got here. Is that right?
I didn't meet Coach Menifee until I was actually enrolled in Baylor University.
Okay, so I want to know, what was it about Coach Dawson that made you feel so comfortable that you could pick up your life and move from Athens to Waco?
I wish I could be specific and tell you something definitive about that. I don't know. He just made my mama feel so comfortable, and because she felt so comfortable, I felt equally as comfortable. Now, there's one thing that Coach Dawson hadn't done to this point. We were on our way to Waco in his 65 Chevrolet Caprice, I guess it was Impala. He said, Tommy, you got a great game, but there's one thing that you like, and if you come to Baylor, I will tell you what that is. We'll work on it. Well, I came to Baylor. I stayed at Baylor, played basketball 4 years at Baylor. And to this day, he still hadn't told me what that part of my game I need to work on. So I'm not saying he was deceptive, but it was something about Coach Dawson that made me comfortable. And that's why, and I know it's very unusual for a player to sign to play for a coach and not even meet that coach until he's actually enrolled into the school. But here again, it was preordained. There's no doubt in my mind about it. This is where God wanted me to be.
Having grown up and playing ball in segregated schools up until your senior year of high school, when they became integrated, did it cross your mind that being recruited to a predominantly white basketball program, that you were the first recruited scholarship black athlete for Baylor? Did it register to you that you were going to be the first?
No. I'm not sure and the reason I say that, because the year prior to me coming, John Westbrooks from Elgin, Texas, you probably heard about him. He was on the football team here at Baylor. Now, he was a walk-on. He was not a scholarship player. He came to Baylor as a freshman and walked on. So it never occurred to me that I was the first black to receive an athletic scholarship. Never thought about it. But I was so, I guess, overcome by what was going on and the fact that I had intentions and hopes of going to a junior college there in Athens. And now all of a sudden here I am at Baylor University. I was just overcome with that.
If you need a trailer, Flat Rock Trailers has got you covered. From light-duty single-axle utility trailers to the Big Tex tandem duals. We also carry a full line of enclosed cargo trailers. Need a motorcycle trailer? We've got them. Need a dump trailer? We've got the largest selection in the state. Oil field trailers? We carry a full line of Big Tex trailers to handle all your needs. Trailer repairs? We repair all makes and models. We'll even rent you a trailer if you need to use one for a day. Flat Rock Trailers, your #1 source for all your trailer needs. Find us at flatrocktrailers.com.
TNG can, and here's why.
To say my wife and I have a lot to clean is an understatement. So we go to TNG Chemical, where the pros know what cleaning solutions to use and give us detailed instructions on exactly how to use them. We never got that kind of advice from any other stores. And the prices at TNG are great. From general household cleaners to odor control solutions for our pets. We go to TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
You're listening to the Sick'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Here again are Brooke Bednarz and John Morris.
You're tuned in to the Sick'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. We're glad you're with us. Be sure to download, subscribe to our podcast wherever you get the podcast, Spotify, Apple. It's on our Baylor website at BaylorBears.com. Tune in for a new Sick'em Podcast each week. Continuing with Tommy Bowman, one of the great ambassadors for Baylor University and Baylor basketball, helping tell his story. Tommy, you said that it really didn't register with you at the time that you were the first black scholarship student athlete here at Baylor. But I want to know, did you ever encounter anything that made you aware of that?
Well, not at Baylor, because I was very careful to just hang with the basketball players. I didn't spend a whole lot of time except in class with the students at large. And I did that because that was what I did in Athens. I stayed with people that I knew, people that I felt comfortable with. Because if you didn't, something bad would probably happen to you. So I just stayed with the players. And consequently, I didn't have any negative experiences that I can share with you.
What was it about your team? You told us y'all are very close still to this day before we started talking here today. So I want to know, what about that group made you feel comfortable to be the first and to kind of be the pioneer?
Well, I think it was the sincerity of it all. See, when I came and was shown around Baylor University when I made my visit, I was shown around by Randy Thompson, Stan Sluter. So I asked them probably 2 or 3 years ago, how did they feel, because they hadn't been exposed to blacks. I mean, on an intimate kind of basis. So I came, they showed me around the school. And when I say they showed me around the school, they didn't show me the Heart of Texas where we played. Because if they showed me that, I might have decided to go to Henderson County Junior College. I'm just joking when I say that, Brooke. But I think it was the sincerity of all the players. Nobody made me feel as if they were pretending. Nobody made me feel as if they were catering to me. They just received me and accepted me as one of the players, one of the students, one of the guys. And that made me comfortable. That made me very comfortable. I can't recall ever being uncomfortable with the Baylor basketball team from day one, Brooke.
You said you asked them a few years ago what they thought. What did they say to you then?
Well, Randy said he didn't know what to expect when Carol Dawson told him, I've got a recruit coming in, the guy's from Athens, and he's black. Randy said he wasn't sure of what he was supposed to do because he'd never done it before. He had shown basketball players around before, but not a black player. So he was concerned about, when we go out and eat, can I just take him anywhere? Because this was in the mid-'60s. And even after I got to Baylor, there were some places that refused me service here in Waco. So he was concerned about that. So, do I take him to church with me on Sunday? What church do I take him to? Sure can't take him over in East Waco because I've never been over there. So there were some things that he had to work out and get, and he did a good job. And I came here, and Randy showed me around, Stan showed me around, Bob. They were living in a 3-man room up there. And everything just worked out. Everything's worked out for me so much and so good because I know that God was totally involved in the entire thing. And I hope you don't get tired of hearing me say that because that's who I am. That's who I am.
Okay, so Tommy, you said it didn't really register with you at the time, what you were doing, what you had done. But now as you look back and look at Baylor athletics, leaps and bounds forward for athletics as a whole and basketball in particular, does it register with you now that you started this? I mean, you were there from the very beginning. You blazed the trail and made it possible for this team, the very team that we have today.
Well, I had a conversation with a gentleman this morning about this interview. And I told him, I said, it's really not anything that I achieved. It just so happened that I was the first. And my next door neighbor said, when you're the first, that won't ever change. You might score 25 points a game, but there's somebody going to come along behind you and score 26 or 30. You might get 15 rebounds a game, but there's somebody going to come behind you and get more than that. But once you're the first, that won't ever change. It won't change today. It won't change next week. It won't change next year. So I take great pride in it, but I never felt any pressure on it because I never thought about it during the time. And I don't recall doing anything or going anywhere or changing any of my schedule based on I need to do this because I need to make a good impression so that, and I don't think I should have. I don't think I should have done it based on me doing something for my race. I was doing it for myself. And that's what I did. And that's what I continue to do.
You said being the first is a fact, and that's exactly true. It's a fact. It's not going to change today, tomorrow, or even next year. But it is a door that you walked through first. Carol Dawson opened that door. You were the first to step through that door. And now to turn around and see all of the young men and women that have followed you through that door, what does that mean to you?
That means a great deal. And what means a great deal more is I've had players that have come subsequent to my coming and have told me that they knew about me, they knew of me, and that they were proud to emulate me because they thought I had done a terrific job in being the first. I never considered myself to be a pioneer, and I still don't. But it does give me great honor when I hear a young man say that, I knew about you. I heard about you a long time ago, and I respect what you did. And so you have given me the impetus to do what I'm trying to do. It does something for me, Brooke. It really does.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, at Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Your friend in the car business.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
This is the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat in Waco. Online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Welcome back to the Sick'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. We hope you're enjoying this one as much as we are, getting to visit with Tommy Bowman, a true trailblazer in the history of Baylor Athletics. John, we got to know a little bit more about his family and his background and what exactly Baylor did for him.
Yeah, let's continue our conversation with Tommy. Tommy, the question is, how would you describe your time here at Baylor? We use the term now, preparing champions for life. Maybe that term wasn't around during your time, but how did it prepare you for the rest of your life?
Well, one thing, I met my wife here in Waco. Soon will be 52 years of marriage. Met her, two wonderful kids. 4 great grandkids. And I guess more than anything, that stands out because I'll tell you how I met my wife. There was another student here named Choice Richardson, and he lived in Penland. Of course, I lived over in Martin Hall. And so I was going into Martin Hall one evening, and Choice was at Penland across the street with this young lady. He called me and asked me to come over. He wanted to introduce me to Jackie. And I went over, and he introduced us, and I said, it's a pleasure meeting you. And then I left and went back to the dorm. Well, it just so happened, 2 or 3 weeks later, I went to church one Sunday morning, First Baptist Church here on Jefferson Street. And I was in the Sunday school class with Jackie. And after church, Jackie invited Choice and myself, and it was a couple other Baylor guys with her, invited us over to her house to have lunch. Now, the only reason she invited Choice and those other guys over there was to get me over there. I know that for a fact. She seduced me and got me in, So the summer after my junior year, we got married. 1969, May 31st. And God has blessed us ever since.
We've talked a little bit about some of your teammates, the teammates specifically who showed you around when you were a recruit. But there's one name that, you brought up to us before we started today, and that is David Sibley, a good friend of yours, a freshman with you. He wasn't the one showing you around campus, but someone you met very early on. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with David Sibley.
I remember the first time I met him, though. I remember the very first time I met him. Was in Martin Hall on the first floor is where I was living. And I left my room to come to the Miles McLean gym to practice. And Sibley was walking down the hall with David Croucher, and they had a basketball. That was the first time I saw him look like Mud and Jeff, because David's about 6'6" and 6'7", and Croucher is not quite 6 feet tall. 5 feet 10, 11, something like that. And I saw him and Croucher headed out the door, so I walked up behind him and kind of introduced myself to him. See, David was not a scholarship player. He was a walk-on, him and Croucher both. My freshman year, there were only 2 scholarship players on the team. That was, I beg your pardon, it was 3 of us. Croucher was not one of them. Sibley was not one of them. But Larry Gatewood, I don't know if you heard that name, he was on there. And there was another gentleman, can't remember his name, he was from Plainview, Texas, Clay Woods, it was 3 of us. But everybody else on the team was a walk-on, so it was only 3 scholarship players. And of course, David Sibley, he played that year, and then he started for the varsity team his sophomore year. And I'm not sure how that relationship developed, but it's something that has flourished, and I think it has gotten better with age and time. And I thank God for the relationships that he placed in my path, and most of them are through Baylor University. I'm talking about the lasting ones. Now, I often think about high school, and I think, who in my high school days do I continue to talk to, spend time with, email, and family visit? None. but Sibley, Gatewood, Croucher, those guys, we still get together. And if it had not been for this COVID-19 issue, we would have been getting together this year, well, last year. We had a trip planned to meet down in Bryan, and of course, I think it was Tom Stanton, his wife, was expressed a little wisdom over what we were doing, and so we canceled that trip. But it's amazing that we still have a strong bind between us, the guys that I play basketball with. Amazing, absolutely amazing. That's why I know that God was entwined in all of my dealings here at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. I've been absolutely blessed, Brooke, absolutely. Our pastor preached this last Sunday from Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I know that. This is not to say that all things that happened to me have been just good, but all things have worked together for good.
Tommy, would you agree that if the relationships with the people on the team, if Sibley wasn't Sibley, if Tom Stanton wasn't the way Tom Stanton is, if Gatewood wasn't the way Gatewood was, maybe your experience being the first to step through that door would have been different?
No doubt. No doubt about it. Now, Gatewood, he used to tell me, Tommy, you can't make Waxahachie Bible College team. That's what he'd tell me. Sometimes he'd get upset at me about it. And he was a very competitive guy, you know. But I knew that he was saying that in a joking way. I was absolutely blessed. I don't recall any issue I've ever had with one of the players on the basketball team. I mean, when we're on the court now, we're competitive. So we've had a few times when, you know, somebody gets punched in the mouth inadvertently. Somebody does something that somebody didn't like. I mean, that happened. But that was, you know, when we were between those lines. But as far as anything happening that carried over from basketball, never happened. Never happened. Maybe it's because of my character, though, you know.
Going back to David Sibley real quick, he was your best man in your wedding to Mrs. Jackie. I want to know why you decided to have him be your best man.
Because he was, Sibley was let me see how I would say this. Sibley was, on the team, he was kind of the rock. I'll share one thing with you. You know, when Coach Menifee would be working us, I mean, we'd be working and we'd be tired, we'd be running, and Sibley would say, Coach, I lost my contact. And so we all have a break to start looking for contact. Sibley, I mean, he had a way of doing things. And so when I needed somebody to be my best man, I mean, there was no doubt asking Sibley. And like a trooper, he agreed to do it. And no mistakes. I've got lots of things that I look back on in my life that I wish I could redo. But if I had to do this whole Baylor thing again, I'd do it all over, Brooke. All over. The same way.
Love that story. Your friendship with David Sibley, as well as the rest of your team, is the perfect example of unity. And, you know, that's something that's been on the minds of everyone here this year with talks of social injustice and things of that nature. Baylor Athletics even launched the One campaign, and we all know about that. So I just kind of want to hear your take on what you think about the One campaign, and to see your school, the school, you know, that opened the door for you, that allowed you to be the trailblazer that you are. You know, what are your thoughts on the fact that they're continuing that work here today through the One campaign?
I think that's absolutely terrific, even though I have not been involved in that, not even heard of it. But I think that unity is the one word that we all need to be concerned about. As a matter of fact, this past week in our Sunday school lesson, we talked about John 17, where Jesus prayed this Lord's Prayer. This was the last prayer that he prayed before he was crucified. And when he prayed for the church, he prayed that we may be as one as he and the Father and the Holy Spirit is one. So that's my part of my prayer every day, Brooke, is that we as a people, not necessarily as any particular ethnic group, we as a people, because he told his disciples that we need to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, and soul, and love our neighbor as we love ourselves. That's what we need to do. And when we do that, Brooke, then we won't even be concerned about disunity. We will be unified. And there is so much strength in unity. So much. There's nothing that we can't do when we are unified. But unfortunately, in this day and time, when I see things going on today, Brooke, I think about when I was at Baylor in the 60s, the discourse that was going on in our world. But Satan is busy. Jesus also told us that in this world there will be trials and temptation. But then he qualified it and says, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. I believe he's still in control. He hasn't gave up ownership of his world yet.
Well, that is the perfect way to wrap things up.
I agree.
Yeah, Tommy couldn't have been any better. We love you. We appreciate you. We appreciate what you mean to Baylor basketball and what you mean to Baylor athletics. And thank you for spending some time with us. I know people will enjoy Brooke hearing his story, folks that don't know the story of Tommy Bowman.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to be able to honor Tommy a little bit further at an upcoming men's basketball game this month.
We appreciate Tommy Bowman, our guest on this week's Sikkim podcast. For Brooke Bednarz, I'm John Morris. Hope you'll join us next week for our next Sikkim podcast.
You've been listening to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sikkim Podcast has been a production of Baylor Athletics.